So hello, how are you? People have tests? No test? Tomorrow? Okay, nice. So some of the news items, although for this week we have covered many of the news, some news items seem to be important from exam perspective which might have got neglected to some extent. Those we will complete today. So overall, we'll be having good hold over all the current affairs throughout the week. Now this one related to Taliban. So a Taliban leader now supposed to get prosecuted under this International Criminal Court. Now many students get confused with two courts. One is this International Court of Justice and other one is International Criminal Court. These two terms, International Court of Justice and International Criminal Court. When you look at United Nations, I said the Parliament of United Nations is United Nations General Assembly, right? The executive body is Security Council. United Nations Security Council is its executive or the government body, we can say. And the judiciary, when we say, the judicial body of United Nations is this one, International Court of Justice. Okay? And we are not talking about this organization in this particular article. Rather, we are talking about International Criminal Court. Interesting thing is, both of these courts are located at the same place. That is in Netherlands, the location is Hague. Okay? So both are located at the same location. But this one is part of United Nations directly. This one is not part of United Nations. Okay? Now, when we talk about this International Criminal Court, what is happening over here? Now, this court specifically came into picture to deal with the crimes which are done by one single person or a person who is in power. He might have given some orders which has caused something which is a kind of heinous crime at the world level. Let's say we take example of Hitler. What Hitler had gone for was genocide. What is genocide? Mass murder, you can say. Or when you attempt to kill or destroy entire community or entire ethnic group. So he wanted to completely destroy this Jews community. If any leader throughout the world is taking any such action, such crimes should be punished at the world level. This is the idea behind this International Criminal Court. This might happen that at the national level you have judiciary, you have your constitution and laws. But these people who are at a powerful position, they are prime minister, president, or they are in a powerful position, because of which even if there are laws at the national level, nothing happens. Nobody will take any action against them. Or maybe the judiciary that might be corrupt in that country, that is also possible. So this idea came into picture that we have to ensure justice and such individuals should also be prosecuted at the international level. Are you getting the point? So when I go back again to this difference, one is International Court of Justice and this one which we are talking about right now. Here we are going to prosecute individuals. It could be an individual officer or a politician or the president of a country. We will be prosecuting that individual person. Whereas in case of International Court of Justice, this court comes into picture whenever there is any kind of conflict which involves countries. Let's say India versus USA, there is a fight, or India, Pakistan, there is a problem. We might get to International Court of Justice. Okay, so member states of United Nations, they become parties over here. Whereas over here, the case will be against one individual. Getting the point? Now, this International Criminal Court, it was established in the year 2002. And again, compare it with this International Court of Justice. This came into picture in 1945. Now, this is the same time when United Nations was being introduced, or all the organs of United Nations were being built. So this body came into picture at the same time. Logical, we can understand that. But this came later on. So you see, In the year 1998, it was first adopted. So there was one treaty, or we call it as Rome Statute, which was signed by some countries in the year 1998. After a few years, that is in 2002, this Rome Statute got enforced and we created this international. Okay. Now, what is its jurisdiction? Overall, which particular crimes will be taken care of or will face some jurisdiction from this court? So they are very specific about it. One is genocide. Then crimes against humanity. Any crime that you conduct against humanity. Normally you understand, whenever there is a fight between, let's say, two different countries, what happens? The military of one country fights with the military of other country. Right? Do civilians fight? No. Civilians do not fight. Civilians are not even supposed to fight. Unless entire military has got destroyed. In that case, that's a different case. But mostly it's a fight between military and military. Military of one country will not attack civilian of other country. Right? So this is expected, that even if you are going for a war against any other country, you will not attack on civilians. If you are doing that, then again, it's a war crime, it's a crime against humanity. Many times when such wars are going on, many a times we get such news from many personals or human rights group. They claim that when the war and all is going on the civilian population of other country, or maybe in our country also, some rape incidents taking place or some murders taking place, many such crimes take place. That seems to be very normal many a times. So the point is, such crimes we call war crimes, crimes against humanity, or there's one thing called as crime of aggression. Let's say a country is showing aggression against other country. We have two countries, one country is here, one country is here. Both countries are sovereign countries, both are members of United Nations, both are independent. But now, this one country is showing some aggression. They are trying to take over this entire land. So this is called aggression. And this is not allowed. As per international laws, aggression is not expected from any country. Now, does this happen? Do countries show aggression? Yes or no? Example? India, Pakistan, who was showing aggression? Huh? Pakistan was showing aggression. When did they take your land? India was showing aggression. When did we take their land? Entire Pakistan is available. Have we taken Balochistan, Sindh? No. Russia, Ukraine? Okay, to some extent we can say, although not perfectly. Israel is a good example. I can accept Israel is doing this aggression and all. Okay. Now see, mostly when countries are even going for aggression, they don't accept it, or they showcase that it is not aggression. For example, we talk about China. Now they are saying entire South China Sea is ours, or they claim Tibet is ours. Then they claim that Arunachal Pradesh is also Chinese. Likewise, they claim many territories. Now it is aggression for sure, but they claim that once upon a time it was part of China. That's why we are claiming it. They say that Taiwan was always part of China. So we are not doing any aggression. So that's an argument. But let's say China goes and let's say takes control of any African country. Now that will be very clear-cut aggression, right? They can't argue that once upon a time when Namibia was part of China. They can't say that, right? So any such aggression, if someone is showing under the leadership of one person, even that also comes under the jurisdiction of International Criminal Court. Clear? So they are very specific about what will be considered. Now, as far as their jurisdiction is concerned, it is expected that we will get to this particular court when the national court of that particular country is not willing to take any action. Let's say our Prime Minister has done anything like that, let's say some genocide, and our judiciary is doing nothing about it. In such situations specifically, this court will come into picture. Okay? And here, the case can be registered, or there will be a case against any particular leader only when they are part of Rome Statute. So those countries who signed this Rome Statute, only against them this kind of case can be registered. But there is one more clause. That clause says, in case United Nations Security Council refers a case, let's say there are 50 members who are part of Rome Statute, okay, and let's assume China is not part of it. Let's assume, or instead of China we'll take other example. Let's say India. Okay, India is not part of these 50 countries. But still, if United Nations Security Council tells International Criminal Court that register a case against this Indian leader, this can happen. So even if you are not member of this particular Rome Statute, you didn't even sign, still the jurisdiction of International Criminal Court can be there on that country if it comes from United Nations Security Council. And the problem is, United Nations Security Council is a very interesting body because they have got these 5 members who are very powerful, right? So India doesn't like that. This is where countries like India do not like this International Criminal Court, because they are going ahead of their jurisdiction. You people signed a particular treaty. You do whatever you want to. I'm not party to it. Why are you bringing your jurisdiction on me? This is the argument, right? So this is where we see some problem. Now, right now there are total 125 countries who have ratified. What do we mean by ratified? Signed the treaty? Approve? What do you mean by approve? Agreed. Okay. So when you go and sign a particular treaty at the international level, let's say you went to United Nations, the head of the state went and they signed this treaty. We call it, we have signed the treaty. We don't call it ratified. First we signed. Now they will come back and now they will pass the law in the parliament. Whatever you signed, that we will do this, we will do that, whatever you committed over there at the international level, now you come back to your country and you pass a bill in your parliament. In that case, we call it ratification. Okay, and this is the most democratic way, because you have taken the permission of your parliament, you have passed the law. So you are aligning with this international law completely. So that is ratification. So total 125 countries have ratified. Most of the countries are Western countries, mostly those European countries. Okay. Now this recent case is about Afghanistan, because a case is being registered again this Afghan Taliban leader. Is Afghanistan a member? Yes. In 2003, Afghanistan had joined this International Criminal Court or this Rome Statute. Now what about these major countries? India, US, China, Israel. So interestingly, they are not part of this International Criminal Court. Okay, so that's a fact you should know, especially about India, that we are not part of it, because we say this goes against our sovereignty. Sovereignty means in India, we do not accept any other agency's rule as such. We make our rules. We are democratic and we are sovereign. So there is no body above India. Anyway, there is no world government. There is United Nations, but we have signed United Nations declaration, or what we call the treaty and all. So we are part of it. Here we are not part of it. And second, why we are not part of it? Because unnecessarily you are getting, or you are getting extra power and you are leading this jurisdiction, and this power is with this United Nations Security Council, which we don't like. We would have been happy if United Nations General Assembly would have taken this decision, right? Because in General Assembly, all the countries are there. But in Security Council, only these 5 who are taking decision. Okay? Now let's say a case is registered and this particular court comes up with some kind of judgment that we will take some action against this political leader or something. Now in that case, if in our country, judiciary gives any order, that has to be implemented by the executive. That means we have police and all the administration who will implement that decision. In case of this International Court of Justice, this one, which was under United Nations, it has got access to United Nations bodies. So if any decision has to be implemented, United Nations Security Council will come into picture over here. Okay, but in case of this International Criminal Court, if the decision has to be implemented, let's say they say that seize the property of this leader, whatever property he has, seize the property, or arrest this person. So this will not be done by any particular body. They don't have their policing mechanism as such. How it happens? It just happens with the cooperation of all the member countries. Those countries who are part of this Rome Statute, they have to cooperate. So their national government, their police, their authorities, they have to take action. Okay? That's how this International Criminal Court works. Any doubt on this? Yes? International Court of Justice as well as Criminal Court. Any doubt? No? Did we miss on anything? Location is there, jurisdiction. Yeah, this one, appeal part. In International Court of Justice, there is no appeal. Once the decision is made, it is final decision and it is binding decision. There is nothing like from High Court, you can go to Supreme Court like that, nothing like that. In case of this International Criminal Court, there is one chance. Once you can make an appeal, that is possible. But once that final appeal is done, then whatever is the decision, that's final. Okay? So that's all about this International Criminal Court. So this will remain in news. It's not like right now you're getting any news from International Criminal Court. Most of the time, means after 2-3 months, you will certainly get this news again. And considering the situation right now we have in the world, increasing number of conflicts, increasing number of wars, this is going to remain in news more. Where to appeal? There is an appeal chamber. It's not mentioned here. Okay, there's an appeal chamber in the same body. So once the decision is made, after 30 days or within the span of 30 days, you can appeal with that chamber. Okay, don't worry, they'll not ask that much technical. Okay, done? Clear? Okay, next topic is about these GM crops. Now this is a good article. This writer called Ashok Gulati, very famous whenever it comes to this agriculture part or the green revolution part. He writes good articles. You can refer to his articles, mostly in Indian Express and all he writes. Now, GM crops. What do you mean by GM crops? Any idea? What is the meaning of it? Genetically modified crops. What do you understand by genetic modification? Alteration of genes, changing the genes. Okay, why would you do that? Why would someone change the genes? Increase productivity. Okay, quality. Okay, good. So normally how we used to do the agriculture, simply we come up with the seeds, we put the seeds and we harvest the crops. Then we got this green revolution, wherein we made some technological changes in the seeds. We came up with high yielding variety seeds and all. Nowadays what we are doing is something called this genetic modification, because we have got advanced in this genetic engineering. So we can edit the genes. So last time I had discussed this part, that if you look at our body or any plant's body, any animal's body, everything is made up of the smallest part, that is cell. And in that cell, there is a nucleus. In that nucleus, there are these chromosomes. In that, there is DNA. In that DNA, all your information is stored. Right? If we make any slight change in your DNA, any slight change, then there will be change in your entire body. So we can just edit your genes and make your hair green colored or red colored. We can do anything. Now, same thing we are trying to do with plants or with these crops. So with the genetic modification, let's say we are facing any problem in terms of agricultural production. So sometimes this happens that some areas are very drought prone, right? There is drought every few years. We see drought, for example, the region of Marathwada in Maharashtra, quite famous, or some part of Telangana also quite famous for being drought prone. Now, getting any crop in that region is relatively difficult. So if we can genetically modify the crop in such a way that even in the drought condition, this crop will survive. This plant will survive. Or let's say because of climate change, there will be many changes. Suddenly there will be flooding, suddenly there will be many changes. If we can genetically modify our crops in such a way that they will become resilient for those changes. Or sometimes there is a pest attack. If you have ever seen in agriculture, sometimes some insects, they attack and entire crop gets damaged because of that. When you know that every year this happens, let's do one thing. Make your crop already resistant towards that particular insect. So if that insect comes and sits on your crop, the insect will die. We can edit the genes. So that's what we are doing with genetic modification. Okay, so the process is same. The process is same as we do in any kind of gene editing. We take the sample of this plant and the seed will make changes in the genes, and we will produce other seeds and just go ahead with planting it. Now, first thing that comes into picture with genetic modification is it an ethical thing to do or not? That's a question that comes into picture for the first time. What do you think? Is it good or is it bad? It's not good. Very clear. Why? Okay, so to counter your argument, we had normal rice variety and we found that people living in our area, they did not have in their body, vitamin A was not in sufficient quantity in their body. So we decided what we'll do is, we will make some genetic modification in this rice crop, rice variety, and we will add vitamin A. So now whoever eats this rice will certainly get vitamin A. Limited resources, ma'am. So many people living in India, it's not that easy for us to provide everything. Okay. Okay, so the core argument she has is, sir, if we do this genetic modification, then that crop you are going to eat, your health might be affected. Or one more argument to go beyond that is, we do not know the consequences, what will be the long-term consequences of this gene editing. You're playing with the nature. Whatever the nature has evolved, you're playing with it by changing the genes. We don't know what will be the consequence of it. That is one argument. Now what the other side is, they look at the practical reality. See, people do not have food. Give me all this knowledge. Once they have got their stomach full, people are hungry. We don't care about anything. People are hungry. We have to give them food. Now let's say in a country, let's say we are making, or in a particular place, we're able to make 10 kg of rice in a particular year, just for the sake of example. And this is not sufficient for the population living in that area. In that area, at least you need 20 kg of rice to ensure that these people at least get their basic food. Okay, that is in demand. Now think about this. Now we have one option, either to import rice from some other part of the world. Okay, but that is costly. Your country is poor. You're not able to do that. Yes. Now there is other option, go for gene editing, and with this genetic modification, suddenly the productivity increases. With the same amount of chemicals, fertilizers, and same amount of water, instead of 10 kg, it will give you 20 kg of rice. Now, what do you think administration will think of? Long-term consequences. If we have present, then we will have future. They'll think about present first, right? But still, it's a very controversial and debatable issue. It is still being debated in India specifically. Okay, many countries have gone for genetic modification, they are going for it. What we have done is, we first tried it on cotton. So we have this variety called BT cotton. You must have heard about it. No? Go to some agricultural area, see some rural part of India. That's the real India, we say. Or Bharat, we say. You're living in India, not Bharat. Now, BT cotton is a variety which ensures that that particular insect called bollworm, which attacks cotton and destroys the cotton harvest every time. So it will ensure that this insect gets killed, simply. So this is how we have genetically modified it. And when India has gone for this BT cotton, we saw that our production has increased exponentially. You see the data, the yield increased by 193%. Can you understand? Can you get the meaning of 193%? Increasing yield by just 100% means double the production. So 193% you can imagine. So once we used BT cotton, India actually became so much surplus of this cotton that we became the second largest exporter of cotton in the entire world. Now look at it from economic perspective. So we became second largest. I think after China, we are at the second number. And this is where many policymakers say we should go ahead with GM crops. We can increase the production. We can even give it to any country. We can economically become better. And also, as far as demand supply side is concerned, because world population is increasing anyway, so demand is there. So this is one argument. What happens is, cotton is something we are not eating. So as far as our health is concerned, this is not going to affect us much. But when people talk about something which you are going to consume directly, for example, there is something called Beti brinjal, which is being talked about. So there, many people start protesting, like this madam. Many civil society groups, they'll say, no, what will happen, we don't know, what will be the consequences. So there is a political pressure to some extent, because of which it remains in controversy. Okay. Now, as far as the technical part is concerned, first of all, we have this Environment Protection Act 1986. Your GM crops will be regulated under this particular act. There are some rules brought in the year 1989, and those rules regulate GM crops. Now, it's about production of those crops, manufacturing of any particular product, or let's say procurement, or let's say you are distributing the product. Everything comes under the regulation. Now, to regulate, we have different bodies. So you'll find out so many bodies like this RDAC, IBSC, RCGM, GEAC, SBCC, DLC, etc., etc., etc. Just read it and leave it. What is important out of all these is this Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. See, this one takes care of the research. Some part of research will be brought by some other committee. Some part of monitoring will be done by some committees. But the main role played by this organization called Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. They are going to give the final approval. Okay, final approval. Obviously, the technical part or the technical players will be involved in this committee. It's not like politicians are taking decision here. It's the technical agency. Okay, if they approve, only then it will come into picture. Otherwise, it will not. Fine. So BT cotton was obviously approved by them. Even this BT brinjal, this was also approved by them. But again, because of these protests, because of all those pressures, government has put this on hold. We're still thinking about it, what to do. It's already approved by them, but it is not yet commercialized. Okay, what is happening is, many farmers, they are illegally getting those seeds and just going ahead with their harvest and all. So this is also happening, especially for this HTBT cotton, GM mustard. So all these remain in controversy till the time we get any final conclusion. What government has to decide, they will have to take a final policy call, whether we'll go ahead with it or we will not go ahead with it. Okay? Done? Any doubt? Yes? No? Okay. Now next one. This is from PIB. So recently, Speaker of the Lok Sabha says that the productivity of our Parliament is seeming to be doing good or productivity is going good. He is trying to just portray that. So when we say productivity, what do we mean by parliamentary or legislative productivity? This is one part we need to understand. So what do you understand by productivity? Are you productive? Passing maximum number of bills. There is one way we can pass the bill. On one day, we'll sit and we'll not take any voting and all, pass. 100 bills in one day. Okay. The best way to reduce disruptions, no opposition party member will come to parliament. Only BJP will sit and all the bills will be passed in one day only. 100, 200, whichever you see. Will that be called productivity? Healthy discussions. Okay. So, when you say the core task of this legislative assembly or this parliament, it is the law making the law. But just making the law is not the core part. How you make that law, that also matters. So debate, discussion, whatever discussion has to take place, that has to take place. There should be voting, that democratic process which has to be followed. So all that has to happen. Okay. Apart from that, there is this thing called executive oversight. That means whatever action government is taking, whatever actions executive is taking, you have to check it. It's the job of parliament to check whether they are doing right action or wrong action. If they are doing something wrong, ask them some questions. We have this 0 hour, question hour, wherein we ask questions to the ministers, right? And they have to answer. All this is job of this legislature. Now, whether they are efficient in that or not, you know, there are two terms we use, efficient and effective. Efficient means whatever resources you have, with those resources, you're bringing the best results. Okay, whatever is available with you. It's not like I need this also, I need that also, I don't have the notes, I don't have the books, then I'll not study. Whatever is available, just bring the best results possible. That is your efficiency part. Effectiveness means whatever is your ultimate goal. If that goal is achieved, then we will call you are effective. Now think about these two terms with respect to our legislature or our parliament. Okay, are they achieving their objective, and with whatever resources they have, are they coming up with the best of the best performance? Okay, this is the part we check when we talk about legislative productivity. So we'll have to look at some data to understand how we are doing right now, or what is the trend. And this trend is important for you to just understand what's happening in India with parliament. So first of all, sitting days. So the data says it has declined from 135 days a year in the first Lok Sabha to 55 days a year in 17th Lok Sabha. So you see this entire trend over here. Sitting, you understand, na? Means member of parliament went to parliament, they're sitting there, they're having discussions and all. So the number of days this sitting happens in a year, it is consistently declining in a very good manner. So we've reached to 55. There will be a day when it will be 0. No parliament working. Complete dictatorship, right? So this should not happen. So this is a good data to showcase what's happening and what should not happen. Then functioning time, it says Lok Sabha works 33% of its time. It was supposed to work for this much time and only working for 33% of the time. You can understand. MP's participation, attendance around 79%. Debate participation is very low, 45 debates per MP on average. Although this is very, very minor data, we don't need to remember such data. This is something which I feel is important. Then this disruption part, favorite. 15th Lok Sabha lost 30% of time due to disruptions. So these disruptions take place because of these political conflicts many a times. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Bad thing, considering the way parliament is supposed to work, because its work has stopped. So yes, it is bad thing. But sometimes there is no other way for some political parties to raise their voice, so they disrupt it. Okay. Then bills refer to committees. Now this is something important. Parliament is supposed to discuss on bills, But there are some committees, we sometimes send our bills to committees. Now committees are very expert, there the expert discussion can take place. Committees work indoor, nobody is watching them, so one person can speak out whatever he thinks about the bill. When you are in the parliament, as a member of parliament, you have to be on the party line, you can't go against them, right? Even if you feel that you support the bill, you will not support it because of that ideological difference or something. But in committee this doesn't happen, people can freely come up with their thought, you can bring in some experts also, and committee will scrutinize the bill in a detailed manner, in a very careful manner. So it is considered as a good thing, it's considered as a very good practice to give this bill to a committee, let them give some recommendation or make some changes, then we will discuss it in the parliament and then we will pass it. It's a good thing. Now see, 17th Lok Sabha, only 10% bills were referred, and there's a sharp decline. Look at this data. 14th Lok Sabha, 60% bills, then 15th Lok Sabha, 71% bills, 16th Lok Sabha, 25% bills were given to committees. So there is a decline, that bills are being passed without much scrutiny. They're not being given to committees, just pass it. So passing bills will not be the right productivity as such. Quality also matters. Then there are these question hours and 0 hours, right? So there also we see that they are being used in less, or these question or hour or this 0 hour, most of the times they're being used just for the sake of disruption rather than having the rational conversation or rational debate. Okay, so politics is dominating over the policy. Policy discussion is needed, rather more politics is happening. This is what we can say from this particular data. Now those who don't know, question hour, 0 hour, basic thing. Question hour starts at 11 a.m, 11 to 12, it's the question hour. You have to ask question to ministers, and there is this notice which you have to give regarding that question earlier. 0 hour starts at 12 and you can just ask anything, whatever you want to ask. Okay, that's it. Now, one data regarding this private member bill. Only 14 private member bills have been passed till now since independence, since 1947, or let's say from 1950. What is private member bill? Non-minister, very good. So let's say there is a member of parliament who belongs to BJP. If he brings in a bill, he's not a minister, but he belongs to that party, that will be a private member bill. Or let's say the opposition party member, let's say a member from Congress, he brings in one bill, that is also private member bill. Now most of the times it doesn't happen that private member bill will pass, right? We don't like that, government doesn't like that, it's about ego. So this is also something we can highlight. Then deputy speaker, his position is vacant in this 17th Lok Sabha. So that is also against constitution. And this is something which is being focused since last few years consistently, that we're not focusing on consensus building. We're focusing on this rule of majority. There's something, let's say we are bringing a bill. There's one way, what we can do is, it will not happen that everyone will like that bill, for sure. Some people will definitely be against it. Now, if we can somehow try to bring in consensus, what we will do is, whatever is your problem, we will try to sort it out. We'll try to make amendments in the bill in such a way that whatever is your problem, we'll try to remove that, or we'll add some kind of reservation or some kind of benefit for you, so that you also support this bill. That is consensus building. But when we have a government who has got the absolute majority, they have this other option also, that we don't care what you think. We have the numbers, we can pass the bill, and because constitutionally we are doing right thing, we will do it. Okay? Now, this is up to the government. Legally, they are not doing something wrong. Okay? But this consensus building is not happening. This is for sure. Clear? Any doubt on this? No? Okay. Now we have this body which is in news, National Commission for Minorities. Now what do you think? Minorities, when you use this word, what do we mean by minority? Or constitutionally, Is there any minority which is, mentioned in the constitution? Which groups? Vulnerable groups? No. Vulnerable group, women is a group who is vulnerable. Tribals are also vulnerable. So should we call them minority? Population? It's very low. Whose population is very low. Okay, obviously that will be minority. But you can define minority in any way. You can say some people are black, some people are white. Majority, minority. Some people have hair, some people are bald. So you can say anyway. As far as our constitution is concerned, we talk about religious minority and linguistic minority. Okay, religious in terms of religion. So the population of which religion is highest in India? Hinduism. But after that you see others. So that data will show you who will come in the minority. So for example, look at these numbers. Muslims 14% approx. Now this is census 2011. Now next census will tell you the real data. Christians, Sikh, Buddhist and Jain. Earlier Jains were not being considered as minority as such, but later on they were also added in this particular list. Okay. Now specifically we are talking about this religious minority over here. Now we have this National Commission for Minorities, and this was brought with this act called National Commission for Minorities Act in the year 1992. Okay, so any minority group in India, if they are facing any kind of problem, any kind of discrimination, if they have some kind of challenges, specific challenges, their interests are not being protected, in that case this commission will come into picture. They'll do something, they'll try to take some action. Okay, now who is part of this particular commission? So there are total 7 members, chairperson, vice chairperson, and there are 5 members, and these are nominated by central government. Interestingly, all these members will come from these communities only: Muslim, Christians, Sikh, Buddhist, Parsi, Jain. Okay, only from these communities these members can be there. Okay, this is logical, we can understand. The commission is for them, so obviously they should be part of it. Now look at their powers. First of all, we say this body is a quasi-judicial body. What do you understand by quasi-judicial? See, all the members came from central government. That means this body works under central government to some extent, right? But we are calling it a quasi-judicial body. What do you understand by this term? Can be interpreted by judiciary. What do you mean? Huh? Okay, similar to the courts. Now see, any body working under central government. Central government is an executive body. Executive means they are supposed to implement the laws. Laws which are made by the legislature. Those laws are supposed to be implemented on the ground. That is the task of executive. So any body under executive will do this same task, that they will execute. They'll just implement. Now we are saying we have a body which is an executive body, but it is quasi-judicial. It is similar to judiciary. It is very close to judiciary. So it is an executive body, but still it will work somewhat like judiciary too. It's not complete judiciary. That's why we are calling it quasi-judicial. So what judiciary will do? Normally you can think about judiciary. What judiciary does? What action means? What? They give judgment. First they investigate also. Yes, for investigation they can call anyone. They can give order. You have to come this date, right? They will check all the evidences. They will introspect, and then they will give some judgment, and that judgment or that order is binding, right? This is the role of judiciary. Similar things can be done by this body. Whenever they find out that something related to minorities is there, and there they have to check something, they need to check some evidence, they need to call someone, they can call any officer also if they find that that officer is doing something wrong against minorities, anything. They can do all that particular task. That's why we are calling them quasi-judicial. Okay. Then their term is of 3 years. Whoever is joining, their term of office is 3 years from the joining, and they can be removed by central government. Now they have just mentioned the terms under which we can remove you. You can read that and just remember that, because this is something technical you have to remember for exam. Okay, if you are into this insolvency, you're not paying your debt and all, you are accepting any employment in with any other party, let's say any private employment also. Likewise, all such things are given for any other commission also, any other members of the commission also. So this is very much common for many commissions. Now, did we discuss this part? Yes, we discussed this Act 1993 notification. This is important. So who is considered minority? I said Jain community was earlier not considered as minority. Under this 1993 notification, only these 5, I'm sorry, just a second. These 5, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist and Parsi. Parsi is not given over here because the number is very small. So Parsis were added, but Jains were not added. Now there was a discussion for a long duration, and later on Jain group was added in the year 2014. Okay, so right now we see this total 6 groups part of this minority in India. Clear? Done? Okay, done. Now next is this particular bird. What's the name of this bird? Hornbill. So quite famous throughout the world for being very beautiful, and quite famous in India for being state bird of some states. And in one state there is a festival also, that is Nagaland, Hornbill Festival. But it is not state bird of Nagaland. Many people get confused. So we should have some decent idea about such species which are very important. Especially we will look at their status, IUCN status. If they are endangered, if they are vulnerable, that matters. And UPSC keeps on asking questions directly about such species. At least those important species you should know. Otherwise, there is the list of species will be like very exhaustive. You can't study each and everything. But at least those which are highly vulnerable and quite important, at least you should know about them. Okay. So quite famous for being very large bird. Okay. And one second. This is more important, where it is actually located. This bird is found in South Asia and Southeast Asia. So when we say South Asia, which countries are there? India. Yes, India is part of South Asia. So other countries are neighbors, part of our Akhand Bharat you call. Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, all these are part of South Asia, right? And when we say Southeast Asia, Japan, Southeast Asia. Yes, Malaysia, Singapore, Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, all these countries, they're part of Southeast Asia. So in these areas, you find this particular bird. And in India specifically, it is found mostly in Western Ghat and these Eastern Himalayas, specifically in the northeastern part of India. So Western Ghat region, the southern part of India, or the western side of the southern part, and the northeastern part of India. So both sides you will find greenery, right? Those forest regions where you will find this particular bird. Now it is state bird of these 2 states. Again, a factual part you need to remember. Arunachal Pradesh and Kerala. Okay, and festival takes place in Nagaland. This you have to remember. And this is something important. IUCN Red List, it is termed as vulnerable. In CITES list, it is at Appendix 1. Wildlife Protection Act, it is in the Schedule 1. Now, Schedule 1 clearly means we are giving highest importance. When we put any species in the Schedule 1 of this Wildlife Protection Act, that means we are trying to protect this particular species. Okay, there will be strong rules to protect that, which you will read. When you read this Wildlife Protection Act, you will understand the provisions. Okay, so in CITES 1, Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act, and as far as IUCN Red List is concerned, its status is vulnerable. You should know these facts no matter what. Yes? Any doubt? No? Now, there is something called Eklavya school scheme brought by government. Eklavya. Who was Eklavya? Yes, student of Dronacharya, cut his finger. Right? Dronacharya was not a good guru, but he was a good shishya. Right? So, now when you study mythological texts, by keeping sociology and all those books parallelly with you, then you will find out that Dronacharya belongs to this mainstream region of society, or the powerful mainstream society, and this guy Eklavya, he belongs to the tribal region, right? So government brought this scheme Eklavya, the term which is being used to help students in the tribal areas. Okay, in mainstream, you will observe this thing that tribal region and the mainstream society, there is a difference. There is a difference. Now, whom do you think they are more modern or more modernized or more advanced? Mainstream is more advanced, or tribals? Mainstream. So how are you coming to this conclusion? They live in forest. Okay, tribals live in forest, we live in these big buildings. They are better or we are better? Climate change is happening because of us, right? Many problems of the world are happening because of us, so it's quite difficult to say who is advanced. Okay, but still, when we look at things in a traditional way, as far as this health part, education part, we have structure of system of knowledge which is bit structured now, and that seems to be a bit advanced. When you look at health infrastructure also, it is more advanced. In some aspects, they seem to be on better lines. They know how to live a sustainable life, that sustainable environment. They'll not cut the forest, but still they will live their life, which we still do not know how to do it. We have development versus environment problem. Now, as far as this scheme is concerned, this scheme is coming from this tribal ministry. Okay, and it is a flagship program of government. See, there are so many schemes launched by government. Every single day, Modi ji will come up with some schemes. Every scheme is not important. Okay, what you need to focus on is which scheme government is focusing more on. We call them flagship schemes. So like this Ayushman Bharat, that's a major program. Government is putting lot of effort, lot of money, and lot of resources are being used. And they'll keep on tracking. Some schemes, government people also do not remember which scheme they launched and all. So we are calling this scheme as flagship program. So it's important. Now what is being done over here? First of all, they said they are going to provide free quality residential education to scheduled tribe students from class 6th to class 12th. Now normally, you must have heard about those Navodaya Vidyalaya. Yes? In which we get this CBSE education, right? And we assume that they are providing quality education, and those are residential schools, right? Residential, I hope you understand. Now, on the similar lines of those Navodaya Vidyalaya, we are creating schools, we are making such schools where in the tribal regions, specifically for tribal students. Okay, so mostly 90% of the students there who are taking the admission will be coming from scheduled tribe. Okay, the objective clear cut is to ensure that there is a gap between tribal population and non-tribal population in terms of education, and we want to fill in this gap. That's why we are focusing on tribal population or tribal students. Now, as far as education part is concerned, they're not just focusing on this education which is of academic origin, only the books part and all. They're focusing on sports, culture, skill training, etc., etc. So we call it holistic development, not just giving this bookish knowledge, but developing your personality, developing your character. So this is holistic development part, which this ministry is focusing. Anyway, when you read this new education policy which was brought by government in 2020, there also they are talking about holistic development and not just basic education which we give through books. Okay, so same pattern is being used over here too. Okay, now if we see the features, fully residential schools, CBSE curriculum, 480 students, up to 10% seats for non-ST students. So those who do not belong to ST category, there is this 10% seat which is available. 20% reservation for ST sports persons. Okay, classrooms, labs, hostels, playgrounds, cultural spaces, etc., etc. So more or less a good schooling system in the tribal areas. Finally, we can conclude that. But they are putting a lot of efforts. Maybe after few months or a year, we might get some data on this, what they have particularly achieved. If not this year, maybe after a year or so, we'll certainly get some data on this. Okay, so that will again tell us the better story of this. Okay, remember the ministry who is bringing this scheme, Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Okay, that's it. Any doubts if you have, please ask, or else we are done. Done. Very good. So we have 1 more minute. We'll wait. Yes, ma'am. That's why we brought that data. They will say what they want to say. They're not looking at data. They're saying the productivity seems to be good, everything is going good. They'll say that. It's his job to do that. That's why we are getting into data. Are they really productive? So he might have checked in one part of data. For example, the answer which this guy gave, that number of bills passed. So speaker might say, we have passed so many bills in this session. Our productivity has increased. He's happy. That's why we are checking in detail. We are scrutinizing. Are you right or are you wrong? Okay? Yes. Any other doubt? No? Okay then. We're done. Thank you so much.
Hi guys.